Welcome to another episode of Golden Nuggets, Tips and Tales, powered by Property Finder, the leading property platform and #1 property app in the region, driving more leads and transactions than any other platform. This is where super agents and smart home seekers meet even smarter tech, because behind every great listing and every hot lead is technology that works harder so you don't have to. Welcome to the debut episode of Golden Nuggets Tips and Tales, and today I am joined by Vladimir Malugin, who is the Vice President Property Finder UAE, and we're going to talk about, well, the one thing all agents want is more leads, and you have the front row seat into what's trending, what's being searched for, what people are looking for, and behaviors of the home seeker.
100%.
So welcome to the show. Welcome to the season, Vladimir.
Thank you, Silvia.
Tell us what's trending right now.
Well, there are a lot of things trending right now, but let me give you a couple of interesting facts, and these are Golden Nuggets specials.
We love an exclusive.
I know you love an exclusive. So fact number one, 70% of the consumers today do not use the filters. Consumers are going to go on Property Finder and they're going to search by community. Mm-hmm. And the other thing, which is quite important, is the way that they're searching today, be it on Google and be it on Instagram, there's no filters. Mm-hmm. So what do consumers do? They put in, rent a 2-bedroom apartment in Dubai Marina or on the Palm, and then they they land on Property Finder, and we're showing them the data and we're showing them the listings in accordance with Property Finder's algorithm and in accordance with the visibility, or what we call exposure, on Property Finder. The second interesting fact is that 70% of the consumers do not go past the first 3 pages. Right? So for you as an agent or an agency, it's super important to be on the first 3 pages.
Super important to be on the first page.
Ideally, that's what you would want. Right?
How do we hack the system?
So how do you hack the systems? There are 2 ways. One is for money, which is basically you buy listings that are higher up on the page.
Pay to play, yeah.
Pay to play. And you start with something that is called Community Top Spot, which is the top spot on the page. And this is the spot through which you're revolving a lot of your standard listings.
So that's the primest real estate.
So that's the primest real estate, right? Underneath that, you've got 3 listings that are called Spotlight, and they're called Spotlight for a reason. You know, you can spotlight your property. So this is basically number 2, 3, and 4.
And Spotlight is the one that you bid for.
And the Spotlight, you remember correctly, is the one that you actually bid for.
It's like an auction house.
It's like an auction house. But interestingly enough, Spotlight is the type of listing that delivers today the highest consumer leads. Underneath Spotlight, you have Premium, and then underneath that, you have Featured, and then you go all the way down to Standard.
Right.
And you might have, you know, depending on the community, anywhere between 2 to 3 pages of probably Premium and Featured listings, and then you get on to the Standard ones. Consumers will look at page 1, consumers will look at page 2, but as you're gradually progressing, you know, and you're basically flipping through the pages, you're going to see less and less consumers go to page number 5, 6, and 7.
Yeah.
So one element is visibility, okay? The other element, which is quite important, and this is how we also rank the listings on Property Finder, is the quality metrics. Because consumers want to see the quality stuff first. And we want to make sure that the listing has got a high quality score, that it is a verified listing, so the property is there and it's available to be viewed or to be purchased, and ideally that it's listed by a super agent.
How can you control your quality score? Is that photos, description?
It is all to do with photos, is all to do with descriptions, is all to do which, you know, photos you're putting up first. And, you know, hopefully it's either the view or the living room, and not the kitchen, unless, you know, you're selling to a chef and the main selling point is effectively the kitchen. It is around the accuracy of the description. It is around making sure that you describe what features the property has, whether it's furnished, unfurnished, and a number of other things. Today, tools such as PF Expert 2.0 actually allow you to generate accurate descriptions for the listings. And as you're creating the listing, you know, whether you're an agent or an admin, in the right-hand side corner, you're going to see the score of that listing, the quality score of that listing,
Right.
which tells you, how many points are you getting out of 100. So you're adding good pictures, your score goes up.
Got it.
Right? You're putting a good description, your score goes up. So it gives you the interactivity, and it tells you what is that you need to do in order to increase the score. The higher the score, the higher up the rank the listing will show.
Right. So you're aiming for 100 on all listings.
Well, ideally, you're aiming for anything that's above 90.
90. And then to get verified, because that is one of the main bugbears that no doubt you get in the feedback. The most annoying part of the home searching experience is calling agents and then discovering that property is no longer available, or it's just been rented, or it's just been sold. So verified is the tick that this is still available.
Verified is the tick that effectively comes from the DLD, okay, because we're checking the properties against the register of the Dubai Land Department, and it's got what's called a valid Trahizi, which is basically what you need to have in order to list the property on the site.
So as soon as it's sold, DLD pings back a notification?
As soon as it is sold, what the agents do is they basically submit a Form F, and then it goes to the DLD, and through the delist API, this property gets taken off the portal.
Right. And then the third one was being a super agent.
Priority is given to super agent listings and those super agents that have a higher ranking or a higher rating.
And you're going to meet a lot of those super agents and leaders of those super agents in this season. They're going to tell us how they got to super agent status and how they retained it and how it's benefited them. So stay tuned for that. So they're the three things. They're the three hacks. One thing that I think a lot of brokerages don't realize how important that real estate is on page 1, page 2, that their logos are quite small and indistinguishable. And when you're, like you said, if they're coming from Google and they're landing on that page, you want your logo front and center if you're appearing on that page. For example, Engel and Volkers, who we've got on the show this season, instead of putting Engel and Volkers, they're taking up every millimeter of that rectangle with E and V. So that's another tip, another little hack
It is another little hack. Engels and Volkers is a long-standing partner of ours. And what they do is they pay a lot of attention to how many listings they have on page 1. And page 1 is really important. It's important for the buyers, and it's similarly important for the sellers. Because in order for you to attract the sellers and get the instructions, what do you need to do? When an agent goes out into the field and has a conversation with a landlord, what the landlord is going to look at is how many of similar properties does the agency have on page 1. So prominence on page 1 that you're able to demonstrate to a landlord or a seller is one of the key elements of getting the instruction.
Well, going back to the behaviors, that's the first thing landlords and sellers will do before they even start reaching out to agents. They're going to have a look and see, I want to work out what my property's worth. I want to see what else is listed in my building or community similar to my property. And if they keep seeing your name pop up or your agency brand name pop up, then automatically they're going to reach out to you.
You're establishing yourself as an expert in that particular community. And you might say, well, hang on a second. I mean, by definition, there's only one page 1. Well, actually, it's not exactly that. Because think of it this way. There's 224 communities in Dubai. In each of these communities, you're going to have residential properties for rent, residential properties for sale. You're going to have new projects, and you're going to have commercial. So you have 4 categories in 224 communities. That's almost 1,000 first pages.
Add to it then the drop down of, because I always click on the drop down, sort by most recent. So if you're sorting by most recent, low or high price, high to low, then that's another 5 different variations of the first page.
Again, consumers today will look at community search. They are not necessarily going to re-rank it all the time. But prominence on page 1 is important.
So in your opinion, how does page 1 help agents to list more and transact faster?
Agents talk a lot about the quantity and quality of leads. There's one element that is super important in real estate. It's the velocity, or the speed of the transaction.
Right.
Let me give you an example. So a standard listing, on average today, from the moment that it's listed to the moment that it transacts, is going to spend about 50 days. Okay. A premium listing, from the moment that it's listed to the moment that it transacts takes 10 days.
Right.
Another way of looking at it is to basically say, during these 50 days, right, if my listing was premium, I could have made 5 times the commission, or I could have sold that listing 5 times over, provided you obviously have the supply, right? So premiums transact much, much faster. And this is important if you want to take the commission and you want to do more deals in the same time period as others will be basically sitting with their standard listing and waiting for it to transact 50 days. You get a lot more leads through premium listings. They are the ones that have the intention, they are the ones that have the interest, and they are the ones that will lead to a transaction much faster than those that come on a standard listing.
And I think another misconception actually within the industry, or no, maybe perhaps with consumers, is that if it's premium listing, it's premium price. Like it might be the overpriced listings and it's kind of giving them a boost. But actually a lot of the directors and managers that I've spoken to and agents I've spoken to, you have to really convince your line manager to approve that premium. And guess what? They're not going to approve a premium listing on something that's overpriced and got no chance of, because it's a wasted credit, it's a wasted premium. So I think consumers need to understand also that premium is good value, is priced right, is likely to transact, as you said, within 10 days. So another hack.
And consumers do understand that, because consumers, as I was saying, are not necessarily going to search low to high or high to low. They are going to look at the prominence, and they are going to look at the prominence of the agency brand in a particular community to understand whether that is an expert and that is somebody who understands the community, or whether their interest is placed better somewhere else.
And one other thing that I've always I learned this in my early days, but I don't know how many agents actually know this. You should really you should list your property at one of the drop-down price points for 2 reasons. If you're searching like high to low and you've got your price bracket, let's say, for example, one of the price brackets is 2.4 million. If I price my property at 2.39, the 2.4 to 2.5 people aren't going to see it. If I price it at 2.4, I'm exposed to the 2.3 to 2.4 and the 2.4 to 2.5. Is that confusing? Have I really just complicated that?
No, you haven't. Okay. I think
you get my drift.
I get your drift. I think having the price that makes sense is very important. And when you're having a conversation with the landlord or seller, you want to be equipped with all the data possible to have an educated conversation. Because today in a growing market, landlords and sellers will have high expectations of the price that they can command. So when you have access to data tools such as PF Expert 2.0, we have Data Finder and Data Guru. One of them is an agent-facing product. Another one is a consumer-facing product. We publish Market Watch, Property Finder Market Watch on a quarterly basis. When you as an agent have access to that data and you're able to have an informed conversation with your seller or landlord in terms of what is the price point at which they want to list the property, it is going with the right level of exposure and the right level of quality metrics in the listing lead to a transaction much sooner. Okay. What you don't want to happen is you don't want the landlord or the seller to have the property with you as an agency or as an agent for 2-3 months, and then come to a point where then you're not necessarily generating the viewings or you're not necessarily generating the interest. And then that landlord might want to switch agencies because obviously, there is a shortage of supply today in Dubai.
I thought you were about to say there is a shortage of agents today.
There's certainly no shortage of agents, but there is more demand than there is supply.
Okay, there you have it. So that's what the data is telling us. We've got plenty more golden nuggets, tips and tales with Vladimir coming up in the season. So make sure you check them out.